According to YouTube, according to my phone, I'm live. We'll see when it gets to the app. All right, here it is. Let's put my on mute. Let's give it a minute for people to maybe show up or not. And put that there. Okay, and here I am. It's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. Okay, so here's the thing. Those, well, I said we'll give it a minute. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to read the chat from the last time I went live. However, I edited the last 15 or 20 seconds. Hello, person who's here. Hi, say hello. I edited the last 10 or 20 seconds because the camera kept rolling and it was just my, stupid face. And apparently, if I edit and trim the end, it then makes it so there's no live chat replay. And when I went to the video now to get into the chat so we can do this Q&A, I found that there is no Q&A from the last time. So there are a couple of comments, however, that I wanted to read in the last video that I didn't get to, so I will do that now. A few comments that I wanted to read. Okay, so today is the 7th of Adar, very famously the birthday and death day. No. The birthday and death day of Moses, our master, our rabbi. Yes, his death day.
His birthday and his death day?
Yes, the same day. Now, this also happens with other righteous folk. They say that they were born and died on the same day, which I always found interesting.
They died when they were born. Okay.
No, they didn't die when they were born.
Okay.
They died on the same day they were born, many years later. Okay. Now, oh wait, where was I? There it is. So, BMXers with Dreadlock says he was born and died on the same day. Earlier this morning, I heard of the smartest Korean, he says, and one of the smartest people who ever lived, whose parents apparently were born on the exact same day, month, and moment as he was.
Hmm?
Now, how would you gauge this, right? Being one of the smartest people who ever lived, how would you gauge that? What are the metrics? Because people in different times would have different ideas on what constitutes intelligence. There's also emotional intelligence, right? There's knowledge and there's wisdom, very different things. There's street smarts and there's book smarts. So little Andre, BMXers with dreadlocks. When you say one of the smartest people who ever lived, by what criteria? I'm curious. Hey, okay, so 3 people are here. Hey, say hello. Where are you from? How you been? How you doing? Weekend plans? Let me know. I'm interested. I'm curious. Okay. Napes4126, sounds like a bot, said, when are the Zionists stopping the G side? The G side with a C. There is no genocide, I say. It's called war. Unfortunately, innocent people die in war. And Israel is not blameless. But it's definitely not a genocide, as I've said before. And if it is a genocide, it is the worst attempt at a genocide to ever be conducted, ever. But are innocent people dying? Definitely, unfortunately. Are terrorists dying? Yes. Enemies who want to wipe us out, which was the second point I made to him. I said, when our enemies stop wanting to wipe us out, we can make peace. I'm not a fan of the Israeli government. I'm not a fan of everything the military is doing or everything the government is doing, but this is war. And history speaks for itself. And it's all about how far back you go. That's really what it breaks down to. If you go, 80 years back, you'll think one thing. If you go 100 years back, you'll think another thing. If you go 200 years back, you'll think yet another thing. And if you go 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 years back, you'll think different things on whether or not there is a claim, a right, some sort of divinely given merit to the state of Israel, the people of Israel, the land of Israel, and everything. But you know my deal, those who follow the channel. The land belongs to God. We are given it to take care of it, like Adam in Eden, right? To work the land and to guard it and care for it. And if we don't fulfill our covenant, and if we don't fulfill our role, and if we don't do our jobs properly, then we may eventually get kicked out yet again. The land does not abhor such things. And that's part of what the prophets have always told the people of Israel. It's like, keep to the covenant. Don't be assholes towards each other. Be good, do good, and you will prosper. And if you don't, then the land will kick you out, just like it kicked out those before you. Okay, let's continue. Lapis said, "Where do Norwegians come from?" To which I replied, "Is it a trick question?" He said, "No, it's not a trick question." He said, where was it? Here. Wait a minute, where was it? What, did that not? Hang on a second. I'm not sure why it's not showing it now. Could it be that YouTube deleted a comment of his? Hang on, because I saw it earlier. Norwegians. You know what? I think it may have deleted the comment. I have no idea. Let's go to the chat now. Is there anything there? No, but 2 people are here and I have 1 like. Say hello, good people. Let me know what's up with you, where you're from, what are you doing? And again, I wanted to do a proper Q&A with the questions that arrived in the last stream, and I said that I'll go through them, but I won't have that chance to do that now because I can't replay the chat. Unfortunately. Okay, you know what? I don't know where that... He answered. He gave a very great answer on why he mentioned the Norwegians and the different tribes, but I can't find it now for some reason. If I find it, I'll be able to do it. Hey, Jewel Chilaka is here. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for piping up and speaking. Or writing. Appreciate it. Okay. Jeremy Crawford, 4004, he said, Jesus is God, the God that visited Abraham. Anybody can ask Jesus for themselves if he is God or not, and he will answer for himself because he is God. There's nothing complicated about that, he says. To which I replied, yes, so say many of his followers, but to me he is not a God, not a son of God, nothing of the sort. He is a dead Hebrew man, no more, no less. There's nothing complicated about that either, I said to him. And then he said, who was the God that visited Abraham? If you can't actually account with an answer. Is it possible that you might not understand the faith of Abraham, he says? I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm just wondering what your thoughts would be on that. And then he speaks a bit more, but it's basically the same thing. So I told him that I don't know God, right? All I know is how God reveals himself to me. That's the party line. That's what I'm going with. And all of the different revelations, the different names, the different messengers, the apparitions, the visions, everything that has to do with how God relates to human beings. Those are not God. If I can perceive it, if I can read about it, if I can listen to it, if I can have any kind of apprehension, if you will. Apprehension, is that the word? Then that's not God. It's a revelation of God. And that already puts the ball in my court of how is it perceived. So these are revelations and not God in, right? Now, a person who follows Jesus thinks that Jesus is God will obviously disagree with me, and that's fine. To have that disagreement is all, that's fine by me. And as to not understanding the faith of Abraham, could be I'm going about it entirely wrong. I mean, all my life growing up religious in Jerusalem, but I still wouldn't be as presumptuous to say that I understand it. I try to follow it, and in doing so, there are different understandings that come along with that. But, seemingly, to say that I understand it, I understand the way that it's conveyed to me through the Torah. That's what I would understand. And that would be my answer, right? Who is the God that visited Abraham? A revelation of God that visited Abraham. Hadas Azoyoif. Hi, hello to you, Hadas. Hadassah, Estelle. Baby, says Jewel Chilaka. All right, so it's a bot. You're cute and I'm baby. I guess that's a bot. But if it's not a bot, well, I thank you for the compliment. And I'm sure you are baby. Nobody puts baby in the corner. What is it, baby? You're a baby too. You're not a baby. You're my baby. That's not the same thing. Okay, let's continue with the comments from the last few days. Okay. Oh, so I posted a box of cookies. I love those cookies. I do. Why, I could finish them in one sitting. In fact, I could probably finish a couple of those boxes in one sitting, but it takes great restraint to resist the temptation to finish all those cookies in one sitting. I'll tell you, they're very good.
What cookies?
They're small Shabbos cookies. You might got me some Shabbos cookies. Yes.
You finished them already?
Robert Harrison, I didn't open them yet. They're for Shabbos. Right. So there's this idea that I like to follow of saving certain things for Shabbos. More particularly, even so, for Shabbos morning after or during the second meal or after the second meal. Robert says, "Who can count the dust of Jacob or number the fourth part of Israel?" Right, quoting the verse. Now, I mentioned to him that in Hebrew, this is not a question. Oh, it's also a question, but it is a statement and not just a question. The word for he in Hebrew, mi mana afar Yaakov. That's the first part of that verse. Mi, right, is the way in which you ask a question. It is translated as who, but it's also a statement because there is a divine revelation called mi that corresponds to one of the higher emanations. And so, who can count the dust of Jacob? Meaning, Jacob is a certain divine revelation that's a bit lower, and who is higher. And so, who can count the dust of Jacob? Meaning things that we would consider to be innumerable, immeasurable, and outside of the scope of our understanding or grasp, for the higher revelation and for those who are connected to it and who are influenced by it, there is a vision that sort of clears, a horizon which opens, and that makes the impossible possible, if you were, and the innumerable, right, the dust of Jacob, something that you can't really enumerate, every particle of dust, but who can count the dust of Jacob? There is a higher revelation of the divine that is above the numbers. It's the idea of where the number comes from, right? It's not merely counting each mote of dust, but it's the origin of dust itself. Excuse me? Daniel, I think, was cleaning his room. He may be napping with the rest of them. I don't know. Okay, let's go back to the chat, see if there's anything here. Hey, BMXers with dreadlocks is here. Yo, yo, yo. Oh, okay, you're welcome. Well, I appreciate it, man. Yo, 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 BMXers, here I am. Rocking, isn't it rock you like a hurricane? Rock you like a hurricane. I think it's rock you like a hurricane. What am I thinking of? In the episode where Ned loses Maud, where Maud is killed in The Simpsons, I think right before that they're playing that song. A colleague from work sent me a text the other day, and he's saying, we are now as far away from The Simpsons the movie as Simpsons the movie was from the first episode of The Simpsons ever. And he said that that's depressing. He said to me, no matter how much I try to be present, time just slips away, and it's very sad. And that idea of mindfulness and presence widening your perception and widening the time frame. And he does try to practice this, but still he gets depressed when he sees the passage of time and how it goes by so fast. Now, part of what Torah and commandments are for is to ground you in the moment and in the things that repeat every year. So you take the time with the changing of the seasons and with the different agricultural meanings of what goes along with that, right? Certain times of atonement, certain times of repentance, certain times of celebration, of mourning. It makes you aware of the passage of time in a more particular way. The Kabbalists do this to a great extent, where each and every moment of the day has a different name of God that is associated with it. And right down to the minutes. And the Kabbalists who engage in these thoughts that are associated with different names of God and different relationships that are going on in this world here, they know how to orient themselves, their minds and their bodies and their actions in such a way that they facilitate a very unique and special connection through them, right, of the male and female divine presence, the masculine, feminine divine presence. And the idea of the passing of time is something where I told my colleague, yeah, you know what, as much time has passed. He said to me, I can remember sitting in the movie theater with my brother, thinking that the first episode is such an ancient thing, and here's the movie. And now it's that much time, as between the first episode ever of The Simpsons and the movie, and between the movie and now. And I tried to sort of, you know what, I quoted to him also. I quoted Fight Club to him, where the narrator says, on a long enough timeline, everyone's survival rate drops to 0. I'm paraphrasing. It's not verbatim, I think, but it's something close to that. So once again, it's all about perception. It's all about what time frame are you using? So in Hebrew, in the Hebrew faith, right, we have down to the minute. We have the different parts of the day, we have the different parts of the night, and we have the weekly ceremonies, and the monthly ceremonies, and the annual ceremonies, and even ceremonies going to every, 27 years with the blessing of the sun, Birkat HaChama, a blessing that is recited every 27 years. The cycles, right, we have the straight line, and we have the circle. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, rock you. Okay, it is rock you like a hurricane. That's what I thought. All right, you know what? Hey, 5 people here and 3 likes. I deeply appreciate it. Every person who watches now or later, whatever the case may be. I'm sitting here in the comfort of my own home on Friday afternoon with a cup of tea, and there's so much trouble in the world and so many horrors, even right now, at this very moment going on. And if I can do this right here and speak to you a little bit about the Torah portion or about it's just such a privilege and such a grand thing, I think, or I have the ability to make it a grand thing, and so do you, so let's hope that it becomes that. Let's send out a prayer for peace, real world peace, as far-fetched as it may sound. From the comfort of my living room, I'm saying this, that may death to be taken away, may bloodshed and war be taken away, and may we know a new era of peace, prosperity, of the living of the dead, right, of partaking of the fruit of the tree of life. Let's continue with some comments. Now, Robert said that in English there is also the possibility of a who being a statement and not a question. And grammatically that might be correct, or syntax-wise it might be correct. But then we also have the idea of the gematria which exists with the Hebrew letters, but I don't think in the same way as in the English letters. And the gematria of Mem and Yod is 50, and 50 corresponds to the 50 gates of purity or of holiness, or corresponding themselves with the 15 gates of impurity. And that idea of the 50 gates being the revelation of a higher emanation, and that idea of the 50 gates, how did they get to this idea of a higher revelation being manifested through 50 gates of a wisdom or of understanding? The way that they did this is that every time that Egypt is mentioned in the Torah, and the Exodus from Egypt more particularly, not every instance, but every instance in which Egypt is mentioned in relation to the Exodus and the redemption, that is considered to be a verse where one of the gates is being brought into the fold. And in this, at least according to the Ramak in Pardes Rimonim, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, and he brought it down from previous traditions, more ancient traditions, that each one of the 50 verses that exist in the Torah that have to do with the redemption from Egypt, one gate out of 50 is manifested there. And the idea of the higher revelation being connected with that, the epitome, right, of slavery and bondage that we were a part of, right? The enslavement, not slavery, enslavement and bondage that we were part of, that was prophesied to Abraham in the covenant between the parts. Israel almost didn't make it, but we were forged, right, in that place of Egypt, in the bondage, the narrowness, the straits. And from there, from nearly the 50th gate of impurity, we were able, because of that redemption, to perceive and be able to embody those 50 gates. Bina specifically is that divine revelation, and it corresponds with the heart, and it corresponds with, honey pie, no, not now, soon. Also because people are sleeping, don't do it. It's not just a live stream. Okay, let's continue. BMXer says, in this farewell, there's no blood, there's no alibi. Could you not? Don't test me. Okay. Because I've drawn regret from the truth of 1,000 lies, so let mercy come and wash away what I've done. Wait, one more time. In this farewell, there's no blood, there's no alibi. What's the quote, by the way? Give me the context. In this farewell, there's no blood, there's no alibi. Hey, you know what?
Oh,
I can hear that. They might be able to hear that. Did I not mention people are sleeping right upstairs? I've asked you twice now. No, excuse me, I asked you 3 times. Please. Ouya? There are consequences to your actions. You know this. Don't test me. Hey, listen, it may just be my newborn brain, but no, it doesn't sound familiar, but I will Google it. What is it? What I've done. Oh, okay. It's a song that you sent me recently. Now, I listened to the lyrics at the time when you sent it to me, but I didn't memorize them, and so it didn't sound familiar. Unfortunately, no. But that was a nice song. I've only ever heard maybe 5 singles from Linkin Park. They all sounded a bit too similar for my taste, at least in those that but since I've never sat and listened to an album of theirs start to finish, and maybe I should. I mean, they're considered new metal, right? If I'm not mistaken. And the new metal that I was into at the time was Korn. Korn and who else? Is it Sepultura would be considered new metal? Maybe. I don't know. I enjoyed Korn very much. I think they were groundbreaking. More than Limp Bizkit, more than Linkin Park, but Linkin Park, again, I've listened to a couple of Limp Bizkit records. I haven't listened to a couple of Linkin Park records. I only know them through the hits. And so maybe the singles that were on the radio, MTV, whatever, maybe they don't do the band justice. And maybe I should listen to a full album of theirs. In fact, I probably should. And lyrically, I haven't read enough or listened to enough of the lyrics in order to know what kind of band they are lyrically. So I don't know. I don't know them too well at all. And I'm not a big fan of nu metal, I don't think. But Korn and 9 Inch Nails had a few, I mean, maybe a lot, I don't know. I know that Trent Reznor is highly, highly creative. I can't speak for the rest of the band. Some of his solo stuff is very good, or collabs that he did. 9 Inch Nails, I haven't given them enough of time either, but I gave them more time than Linkin Park. Am I even correct in grouping them together as new metal bands? I don't even know. But Korn was my go-to. And I've mentioned them in the past, because maybe people mentioned them in the past, in the chat. Their first few records, as I've said, are really, really good. And then I kind of tuned out, and I don't know what they're doing now. But the first few records of theirs are very, very good. Oh, wow. Okay. Let's continue. Just listened, he says, BMXers says, just listened to Hold On and Got the Life. Yeah. Got the life, oh, I say. Okay. BMXers in one of the comments said, when I was reading, he wanted me to read a few things to the audience. So I did. And he spoke of a funeral that he attended. And he says, by the way, there may have been 3 Muslims there. Well, okay, you said 2 or 3. If it makes a difference to you, I read it, but okay. I know you want to be precise with your speech. Or words, writing. I don't know, he says, who believes what, because they converted from Christianity to Islam. But there were definitely 2 Muslim women, because they wore burqas, and 2 Rastas who also covered their heads, because they believe your head needs to be covered when you come in contact with a dead body. That is very interesting. I wonder what the source of that is, of covering your head next to a dead body. Head covering is a very rabbinic, Orthodox Jewish thing. Men do it, women do it. Different sorts of coverings, with modern day, and some people use wigs to cover their hair, and there's a great controversy, I know, in the Haredi community on whether or not that actually constitutes proper head covering. The Nazarite is commanded to not cover the head, right? Gadel pera se'ar rosho. The hair needs to grow wild, and that means to uncover it, to keep it uncovered. Actually, no, that's not it's a halacha, but not a practical commandment. No, I'm misspeaking. According to some Nazarites, it is a practical commandment and a halacha, and a Nazarite must never cover their hair. Right. And I usually do that. But let's say if I enter a synagogue or a bes midrash, right, or yeshiva, I do cover my hair because that's the law of the place there, right? And I wouldn't expect them to cater to me simply because I'm a Nazarite. Though if they asked me, there was once or twice a couple of years ago when I went to meet with the Nazarite Rabbi Joshua Friedman here in the Old City. And excuse me?
Not the one from New York or California.
No, there is a New York Nazarite. That's not who I met personally. I met a Nazarite, a few of them here in Jerusalem. No, a few years ago. Not now. And not now, dude. Really? Come on now. So, right. Before I entered the yeshiva where we met, where he teaches, I asked him, would it be okay by you if I uncovered my hair, right? If I kept my hair uncovered, that is. And he said, best that you don't. And I said, cool, just figured I'd ask. And so I had a hoodie, and so I flipped it on. So Rastas need to be covered. Their hair needs to be covered when you come in contact with a dead body. That is very interesting. Very interesting. I wonder why. Do you know why? I'm curious. He says, my head, of course, was not covered since I'm not a Rasta, so I stood out that way. Besides, he says, the fact that I was the only person there who were fully, quote-unquote, white, he says. He also says, I think this is the first time I saw a dead body in real life, by the way. Well, I saw a couple of corpses in my life. When I was in the medics course, and we had a week or 10 days of being on regular civilian ambulances, and I saw a couple of corpses there. Thankfully, well, first I didn't take my vow then, but the Samson Nazarite can come in contact with dead bodies, with corpses. Don't think there is a source, he says, BMXer says, with Rastafarianism. I know that some of them don't like the ism. I know that they say, no, it's Rastafari, not Rastafarianism, because Rastafarianism is, right, what did Bob Marley say? He said going against the isms and schisms. It denotes giving it that term, I think they say, denotes the fractioning, right, and the disunity. And so it's Rastafari, not Rastafarianism. But you know more Rastas than I do, and you know their ways better than I do, BMXers with dreadlocks. Do you know if people who are under the vow of Rasta, do you know if they prefer Rastafarianism and not Rastafari? Or does it diverge, right, and change between the different facets, right? The 12 tribes of Israel, and the Bobo Shanti, and the Nyabingi, and others? Okay. I am so not liking the fact that the chat was from the last stream, that I don't have access to it. I don't like that. But it's YouTube, what are you going to do? And now I know. Don't trim any live streams or else the chat replay will be unavailable. Cool, now I know. Now I know.
Like that helps.
Yes, exactly. Let's continue with a few other... Okay. So said BMXers with dreadlocks, because we spoke of the Nyabingi before as well, in connection with what he wanted me to say. And he said the Nyabingi order consider themselves the most ancient order, because they say the concept started in heaven already when the cherubs sang, etc. And by the way, yes, he says, the Bobo Ashanti is consider themselves a priestly order. Right, so the Nyabingi say they are the most ancient, and the Bobo Shanti say they are the priests. And do the 12 tribes, do they have any claim to fame among the Rastas and other sects, other groups, other factions, other facets? Do they have different claims to fame within the Rasta movement or religion or faith? I'm curious. Also, I know that the Nyabingi, and maybe all Rasta, but the Nyabingi have drum circles, or is it... right, or specific Nyabingi beats, or specific Nyabingi drums. BMXers, help me out, because I'm not too fresh on my Rasta livity and teachings and ways. So I know that there is a certain drum that is more associated with the Nyabingi Is it a jambi, a kind of jambe? I don't remember right now. Maybe you'll remind me. And the idea of the drum and of the heartbeat, that speaks to something most ancient indeed, right? As ancient as the heartbeat itself is the rhythm of the drum. And the Nyabingi do have this connection with drums, I think, and so it corresponds with that ancient claim, right? Or um, that ancient right connection that they claim. And as for the priestly order, I wonder, when someone does take on the vow of Rasta, if they're not born into it, can they be part of the priestly order of Bobo Ashanti? Do they let people join? And if so, do they let anybody join? Or is it a certain, right, you need to be a certain person, this, that, or the other? What are the criteria? And same, I guess my question is about, look, Rastafari, it starts with a vow. And a vow is something that any person can make, pretty much. Or maybe it's like the Nazarite vow, which was reserved for the people of Israel. I don't know. Maybe the Rasta vow is reserved to a certain type of person only, according to them. But I'm sure that they differ on who it is that may be able to take the vow, right? The different orders or sects or groups of Rasta. BMXers continues from the last chat, and he says, white, he said in quotations, because nobody really is white. That's not a skin color, right? We're more pink. And I'm not fully pink either. It's not the color of our skin. And because of that, and because that's what he said, I didn't find anything like that on the internet, because why would they anyway if that's the case? Right, so BMXers said that Nyabingi don't allow, if you want to become a Nyabingi priest, you're not allowed to marry a woman who is white. And he put white in quotations, and he explained why just now. He says only one Nyabingi website I saw said that a man may not take a woman who was not of Nyabingi livity. Oh, okay, so we do see that according at least to some Nyabingi, there is that restriction on who you can marry in order to... By the way, he says on this website they also used ya instead of ja. I found that interesting. Right, most Rastas use the J and not the Y. It's that same idea. Right, it's the Yod Hey, but they pronounce the Yod J instead of Y. Question marks, he says, because it's racist? I mean, you're allowed to join the Nyabingi order if you're white. Oh, okay, so he answered one of my questions here. So the Nyabingi order does allow you to join, but wouldn't you say you're not allowed to have a woman because she's white? If you want to become a priest, wouldn't you say that's a little bit racist? Well, look. It's racist in the sense of that a priest, let's say, and a person, right, may only marry well, no, let's put it this way. A Hebrew man ought to marry a Hebrew woman. And some people might say that's racist. Now, you can choose to go against that, obviously. But we want to keep it in the tribes. And I think a lot of people, let's put it this way, I guess there is a certain amount of racism where it's almost permitted because it has to do with faith or religion. Though people could argue that it's not permitted in any case, in any way, under no circumstances is racism permitted. And then the question is, the very famous Seinfeld question, if I like the race, how can that be racist? In other words, if you would say, are you allowed to exclude any type of person or race? And I'm thinking, maybe under certain circumstances, yes. But it's not something that should be practiced by and large. In other words, people who are of almost any nation can join the Hebrew people, right? Except for Ammon and Moab. Yes, Ammon and Moab. Now even the Ammonite and the Moabite, who according to Torah are not allowed to come and be part of the Hebrew congregation and the Hebrew people, even them, Ruth, right, the great-great-grandmother of David, great-great-grandmother, well, anyway, a relation of David, is it great-grandmother? Oved, Yishai, yes, great-grandmother. No, wait. Boaz, Salmon, great-great-grandmother, Ruth, was a Moabite. She was. And then our sages say, no, no, it's only the male Moabites, only the male Ammonites who may not join the people of Israel and convert, but the women can. I mean, look, I wonder. No, I won't get into it now. For years, I thought, really, our sages, really, Chazal, you're going with, oh no, 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 no. It says Ammoni. It doesn't say Ammonia. It says Moavi and not Moaviyah. I've always said, no, it's probably the people at large, the nations of the people of Israel. But there is, nevertheless, a reason why Ruth was allowed to convert and why she married Boaz. And later on, a few generations later, came David, right, the greatest king of Israel, corresponding to a very immense and special divine revelation of Malchut, right, of the divine feminine presence. The idea of Mashiach, right, David, and later on the one who will come from David, the ultimate Messiah, as it were. Ammon and Moab themselves are the product of incest, of Lot and his daughters. And later on, right, it's the product of Ruth and Boaz, right, and all of that. And we see that final redemption that is born in sin, let's say, by people missing the mark. Later on, over the course of history, these transgressions, these sins were corrected over time. Does this mean that you need to sin, that you can sin and say, oh, no, it will be corrected over time, that's fine, I'll just repent on my deathbed, it's all good? No, the Torah says no. That's not proper tshuva, that's not proper returning to who you are, that's not proper repentance. However, you can't deny that according to Torah, right, Ammon and Moab were born in sin from incest. And you can't deny that Ruth became a Hebrew woman and converted, even though she should not have done so according to Pshat, according to simple Torah. The people of Ammon are not allowed, and Moab are not allowed to come and are not allowed to convert. And she was. Everything there that was down the line improperly done later on facilitated the birth of David, who also, right, they say was born still, was like a stillborn, right? He was dead, and it's Adam Arishon who gave him, so to speak, 70 years of his life in order for him to live, which is why Adam, who was supposed to be around for 1,000 years, one day, right, in Eden, and then go into Shabbat, that whole thing, why he was, if I'm not mistaken, it's 930 years that he was alive, and those other 70 years, if I'm not mistaken, he gave to David. David, right, that king that should have been dead and was given life by the very individual, as it were, Adam Arishon, who brought death into existence in Eden. So, racism. There is some amount of racism, I guess, that is implicit in our crowd, our tribe, right? The in crowd, the out crowd, right? The in group, the out group. There are certain things you want to keep within your community, within your people, your anash, as they say. And if you say that, no, racism proper, not faith, racism in the sense of, being prejudiced against somebody who looks like X, who comes from X, like coupled with like a kind of maybe even xenophobia, that does not exist so much, if at all. But there is a part of it that does. And so do I think that the Nayabingi saying that a white woman, right, will preclude you from becoming a priest in the Nayabingi order, isn't that racist? You could say it's their tradition. Some traditions are racist, at least to some degree. It is very problematic that just because a person's skin color, right, to quote Rastafari himself, Haile Selassie, His Imperial Majesty, when the color of a man's skin is of no more until the color of a man's skin is no more significant than the color of his eyes, everywhere is war. In other words, the world will be a crappy, crappy place full of war and bloodshed until that idea of a person's color, right, being significant. As long as that's still a thing, oh, he has this type of skin or that type of skin, forget about it. That's no good. He's this, he's that, he's the other. He's other, right? Until we stop othering skin color, that really I feel is so awful to other someone solely based on their skin color. Now, maybe that's where I would draw a line. And you could say that I don't draw many lines, but that would be one where I draw the line, where it's like, come on, just because a person has a certain color of skin, really, that will preclude them from this, that, or the other. The Torah is right about that, right? Anybody who wants to convert can convert. And even then, right, with the Moabites and the Ammonites, it doesn't say because they have this color skin. It said because, you know what, they mistreated you, and they didn't seek you out and say hi and help you on the way out at the Exodus from Egypt. And don't forget that they hired Bilam, son of Beor, the sorcerer, in order to curse you. If I'm not mistaken, though, that's the same verse, the very following verse. So don't regard them, right? And don't wonder as to their well-being all of your days. And even that, Ruth broke that ceiling and became later on somebody who through that union of Boaz and Ruth later came David. So is it racist? Maybe, but I think it might be foolish. But many things that I do are foolish as well. I guess it comes down to why. The question is why. Why is it that the Nayabingi would not allow someone to be a priest if he has a woman who's...
Oh,
what is it, baby?
what?
Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry.
Okay. What if it was the other way around? That's okay. What if it was the other way around, says BMXers with dreadlocks? What if you want to become something... Oh, okay. What if there was a religion or a sect that said you're not allowed to have a woman because she's black, he says, if you want to become something in their religion or sect/order. Yes, that would also be racist in the sense of that it's skin color. And then that calls into question, what do you mean by race? Do you simply mean skin color? Or do you mean a kind of mentality traditionally associated with a certain geographical location in the world, a certain region? What do you have to back it up, right? How do you back it up? And we must not forget that sometimes it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And sometimes, yes, it corresponds. And sometimes there's a correlation to some degree between a person's culture and the color of their skin, the region of the world from which they come. So yes, there are points there where they meet, but you should not, by and large, you should discern and make the difference between when is it because of culture and when is it because of race or some ethnicity. You need to get really, really in there and ask yourself, is it because of X? Is it because of Y? And so I'm asking, I wonder what a Nayabingi man or woman would tell me. What would a Nayabingi priest tell me if, right, as an answer to these questions, I wonder. Now, again, this is not me accusing them of anything. That's their way. No judgment in that sense. I might think it's foolish to preclude someone from becoming a priest because of the color of his woman's skin. But again, there are things in Torah where they would turn around and say, again, it's foolish you think that and believe in that and go with that. Fair enough. Yeah, how's the chat going here? Anything in the chat here? BMXers still going strong. Hey, you know what? A few people are here now and I have 3 likes. Thank you. Speak up. What do you think of this conversation that's going on here? What do you consider to be racist? Do you think that the Nayabingis are racist or the priestly order within the Nayabingi? The priestly group. True, he says to BMXers, I don't give a And to me, it's a religion nonetheless. No, I don't dare to say Rastafarianism in front of them. Oh, okay, so it is something that they would be considering. Is it? Oh, wait a second. Dismiss. Hey, my man, could you please turn the fire off on the soup? Can you please turn the stove off?
What's...
I think you can figure it out.
Oh.
Aye.
Which one is it?
You'll figure that out too. Thank you, my man. Shabbos soup. My woman made soup. She makes soup every week. Almost. Yeah. 99% of the weeks.
Like sometimes and also then,
99. Yeah, but there is soup. Like 99.9% of the time, there's soup.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's gonna be good. It's nice and dreary and rainy and gray out there. It's real good soup weather. Of course, we have it in the spring and summer too, and it's part what I praise my woman for making soup every week. I praise my woman for making soup every week because there's leftover, and I get to eat soup during the week, and it's part of what keeps me healthy and vital. Says BMXers, I don't know much about Nyabingi either. The things I learned recently is only because the BMXer I met is of the Nyabingi. Okay, now tell me, you spoke with this BMXer with dreadlocks Nyabingi person, and did he say, yes, that's our way, and I condone it, and I'm all for it, and here's why, or did he not give any sources? BMXers says, yeah, but with the Hebrew faith, it's not about your race. You only need to be of the faith. Correct, and that's where the Torah is really awesome, where it says, it doesn't, whatever skin color you are, if you take on the yoke of Torah and commandments, right, and you worship the Hebrew God alone, you are now part of that covenant. Now, obviously, there are other things that go along with it, but, right, you could say the Tevilah, right, the immersion and circumcision and all of that, and then you become part of the tribes. So yes, it's about your faith and about the Torah and not about your race. I agree. And yet some people would group those things together, at least to some degree. Hey, I'm just arrived. What's the topic? Says and whatever topic you want to talk about right now, that's the topic at hand. And so where do you hail from? What do you want to talk about? What are your weekend plans? And how did you arrive at this live stream? Do share. BMXers, I don't know how to read, says And. Okay, so don't read. Go with whatever you want. Whatever you want, we'll discuss. Ask any question, I'll try to address it. If not, answer it. Gila DMD thought I wrote hot cookies when I quoted Woody Allen in his film Love and Death, and he says, great, nothing like hot cockles. And she thought I wrote cookies at first. No. Although that would also be fitting. I love me some hot cookies. When was the last time that I had a cookie right out of the oven? Oh my God, it must be years since I had a hot cookie right out of the oven. It must be years. I must rectify that. I must go to a bakery at some point and get me a good, nice cookie right out of the oven. I'd love that. I really would. Okay, let's continue. So Pink Floyd this week. Pink Floyd is reissuing Live at Pompeii from 1972 in IMAX at select theaters, not in Jerusalem, unfortunately, but in select theaters around the world, I presume around the world, but not here. 2 nights only, the 24th and the 27th of April. Tickets went on sale 2 days ago. And I posted about this. It's what a great concert that is. Now, from what I've gathered, it was all recorded in Abbey Road, but they were physically in the ruins of Pompeii. It is a wonderful concert. Even if it wasn't played live in Pompeii, they really gave it their all. And there's the behind the scenes there of the recording of Dark Side of the Moon. There's just so much there. The visuals are beautiful. The music is out of this world. I mean, the psychedelic rock that they had there, truly mind-expanding. And so a BMXer said, if you had the time, would you fly to Italy just to see it? I'm assuming that they will be... It would be a miss if they did not have an IMAX either in Pompeii or next to Pompeii that was showing it there. A little ironic, too, seeing as the ruins are right there and you're watching it on a screen. I've never watched an IMAX movie outside of the Disney Honey, I Shrunk the Audience sort of things that I saw. when I was in Disney World. And I don't consider that to be a proper IMAX movie, though it was an IMAX experience. I would love to go and see, as I mentioned in the previous stream or something, I would love to see Live in Pompeii in IMAX with that surround sound in a movie theater with the lights out. I think it would be a great experience. And I mentioned also recently watching The Wall in the Cinematheque, not in IMAX, but it was still great on a huge screen. Ah, so I don't think I would fly to Italy just to see it in IMAX. I will wait until it comes to IMAX here, or I'll wait until I have the opportunity to watch it even without IMAX. I do have Live at Pompeii. I bought the VHS cassette on Amazon in 2002, something like that, or maybe even 1999. I don't know. I bought when it was almost just a book and video store, because Amazon started as a bookstore, as a bookshop. Okay. Let's see if there's anything here in the chat. What is your religion, if I may ask? I am a Hebrew man. That is my faith. That is my religion. Though I don't consider myself religious, but I am a man of faith. BMXers with dreadlocks say, you may have a woman of any skin color or nation if you're a Hebrew priest. Yes, providing that she is of our people. And you're not allowed to marry a convert. You're not allowed to marry a convert if you're... Wait a minute. The priest is not allowed to marry someone who is divorced. The priest is not allowed to marry somebody who is a foreigner, if I'm not mistaken. And the priest is not allowed to marry a prostitute. And the high priest must marry an Israelite woman who is a virgin. Those are the main restrictions. I think that if you're a priest, are you allowed to marry a convert? Oh, it eludes me right now. I don't think so. Let me Google that quickly. Yes. So according to strict rabbinic halacha, it's all of those things, right? It's a foreigner, which includes somebody who converted. So I wasn't sure about that. So yes, if you're a priest, you may not marry just anybody. You need to marry somebody who was born into the Hebrew faith. Now, is that racist? Maybe. On the other hand, with the Nayabingi, they won't allow you to join the priesthood. With the Hebrew tribes, you are immediately a priest if your father is of the sons of Aaron, from the tribe of Levi, the sons of Aaron. And so, it's not the same thing exactly. And asks, what about Hebrew religion? How you celebrate God? First of all, I love the way you phrase that. Celebrate God. I think, if to use your phrasing, the best way to celebrate God is to be like the attributes with which God is associated, and to try and make yourself in the image of God, as is said in the book of Bereshit, of Genesis, in the creation of man, right? Let us make a man in our own image, b'tsalmenu kidmutenu, in our image, in our likeness. Now, God is something imperceptible. I don't know God. What I can do is use my body in this world and use the Torah and use the commandments and the different covenants to which we hold in order to personify the divine image and have it shine through. So the way that you would celebrate God, if you're at the time of the temple, it's through ritual worship. If you're at a time without the temple, right, it's you are the temple. You are the ritual worship, right? You're not a priest or a Levite or an Israelite. You're all three at the same time, right? Because you have the ability, the capacity to have that divine revelation shine through you because of your deeds, because of your actions. And so that's the best way to celebrate God. Other ways in which people celebrate God is keeping to the covenants and commandments of God. It's things like the Sabbath, the different holidays, and being always returning to your root, being always returning to God, being always returning to the Torah. That's how I think you would best celebrate God. Jubilee, says Timothy Riley. Hello, Timothy. Nice to see you again. The Jubilee is also associated with those 50 gates that I mentioned in the beginning of the live stream. Look at that. I've been on for nearly an hour. I'm going to go soon. But I want to say, just a quick aside, thank you to each and every one of you, those watching now, those watching later. I deeply appreciate it once again. So yeah, what about the Jubilee? The Jubilee is something that is not celebrated or observed, but the Sabbath of the land is. And so we do have the way to calculate 7 times 7 plus 1, that's 50. And I think that part of the reason why the Jubilee is not observed and celebrated is because A, it would be very problematic. B, there is the idea of the temple not being around. I think that also has to do with it, but I might be confusing a couple of different teachings there to do with the Jubilee. What I will say is this: even if we don't keep the commandments of the Jubilee, we do keep the commandments of the Sabbath of the land. As a kind of temporary thing, we kind of make do with that. The teachings of the 50th is something we should always be striving to keep. And the 50th year, the Jubilee, is associated primarily with liberty, freedom, going back to where you belong, being taken out of bondage and enslavement, right? If you're a Hebrew slave or servant, and you say, no, I want to stick with my master, then at the Jubilee only will you be set free. In other words, if you have done your 6 years, and in the 7th year when you are to be let go, you say, no, I want to stay with my master, then until the next Jubilee comes, it can be in 7 years, it can be in 1 year, it can be in 43 years. Whenever the next Jubilee is celebrated or observed, that is when you are set free and when you must go free, because the Hebrew people ought not to stay under, they must not have another master, right? Adonai is their master, Adonai is their king. And to put on yourself another king that is human and a master who is human, that would be kind of negating the very idea of what the Torah and the commandments are here to do, which is why somebody who is a servant or a slave and who is a Hebrew, they are not commanded to keep the commandments. They are exempt from keeping the commandments. Incidentally, they can still be Nazarites, according to halacha. So the 50, the Jubilee, even though we may not be able or right to keep all of its traditions now and all of the commandments now, we can identify and connect with the teachings on the spiritual Jubilee and see how it is that we can set ourselves free, go back to our roots, take ourselves out of bondage, much like we do every year at Passover, much like we do every 7 years with the Sabbath of the land, and then comes the Jubilee, right, corresponding to that higher divine revelation and to the heart and to the left lobe of the brain. BMXer says, HN, according to halacha, not according to the written Torah. Right, according to halacha as brought down through the written and oral traditions, right, the synthesis of the oral and written, that brings about the halacha. And the halacha says that. But yes, you're correct. It says, Isha grusha, right, Isha zona v'chalala lo yikachu, ve'isha grusha me'isha lo yikachu, ki im betula. So, okay. So it says, yes, it says me'amav, right, of his people. So no, I disagree. I think it is in the written Torah. Or am I thinking only of the high priest? You know what? I won't look it up now, but let's continue it in the chat. I may not be able to. Let's continue it in the comments, if not now. Or maybe you good people, give me the sources, right? Give me the sources. I won't look them up now, but if you have them, I'll read them in the chat. Jubilee has been incorporated into many cultures. Hey, Saneezer is here. Good to see you, my man. Good to see you. Shalom, everyone, he says. BMXer says, wait, she have to be of the tribe of Levi? Rings a bell. No, she doesn't need to be of the tribe of Levi. If you're a priest or a high priest, you don't need to marry someone of the tribe of Levi, but you need to marry someone of the Hebrew tribes at large. Either way, Moses had an Ethiopian woman, right? Isha Kushit of Kush, Africa, Ethiopia, and a Canaanite woman according to Sefer Hayashar. So, yes, but Moses wasn't a priest. He did certain priestly things, particularly in the first few days when the tabernacle was erected. It was Moses acting like the priest. And then, once he stopped, then it was only Aaron and his sons that were permitted and that got the priesthood. But Moshe, being above the Levites and the priests, right? The priests and the Levites are the left hand and the right hand. Well, strike that, reverse it. And Moses is connected to a point above them, right? If this is the triangle, Moses is at the top, and the priests and the Levites are in the two bottom corners or points. And Moses was able to embody both, if you will. According to Sefer HaYashar. Right, so Sefer HaYashar, there are a couple of Sefer HaYashars, much like there are a couple of Sefer Chanochs. I haven't read Sefer HaYashar in a long time, and I don't know if Sefer HaYashar that I'm thinking of is the Sefer HaYashar you're thinking of. But there is that idea in Midrash of Moses being, right, he has 3 epochs, 40 years. 40 years in Egypt, 40 years in Africa, 40 years in the desert. And then he died before going into the land of Israel. And they say that in Africa, he was a king in Africa for 40 years. Or not for 40 precisely, but for something like that. So, yes, he had Tzipora, which was the daughter of Yitro, who was of Midian and of Cush. And I do know that they say that he had, I don't know if it was a Canaanite woman, but if you say that Sefer HaYashar says it, far be it from me to dispute that. And I think that there was nothing wrong with that because the Torah was only given to the children of Israel later, for the very same reason that Yaakov could marry 2 sisters, which is not allowed according to Torah. But Yaakov was at a certain revelation that preceded the giving of the Torah. So he himself kept Torah to the degree that he did with the divine revelation instructing him and the traditions of his forefathers guiding him. But the Torah was not in the world in its physical tablet form, if you will. The revelation at Sinai, the assembly of the people, the giving of the covenant, and the blood that Moses threw there. That is something that came later. And so you could make the argument quite soundly and proper, like a proper argument, that even though people before the giving of the Torah transgressed, it wasn't that they transgressed against the Torah. At the time, at that place, it was something that was permissible. You could argue over the morality of it or its place later on of Moses as a leader. He also murdered a person, right? He killed a guy. So, well, if not murder, well, I mean, yes. You could say murder, self-defense, whatever the case may be. He killed a guy, buried him in the sand, right? Married someone who was not born to, and so on. So Moses is set apart in that way. We know Moses is set apart in many ways, including in his prophecy and the place from whence his prophecy comes. And also in the sense that he may have been the giver of the Torah, but the Torah was not given before that. Divine revelation was given to certain people and individuals and clans and families, but the people of Israel as such became bound to the Torah only after the exodus from Egypt. And all of that presumably happened, right, before that exodus from Egypt, before the Torah was given. So you can make allowance for such things, and many people do, and they say, yes, that's why that was permissible. I mean, how awful and stupid would it have been if you put in things that were not allowed, right? And you put them in the Torah and saying, yes, you need to emulate these characters, but they transgressed. Well, I'm not awful and stupid, but what I'm saying, that's very harsh. What I'm saying is that the Torah is something that came down later to the people of Israel by and large. The individuals who were part of Israel, if you will, who existed before that, right? Much like Yaakov married 2 sisters, and Moses, right, married somebody who was not from the people of Israel, but was a convert. You can say, hey, look, these people that you consider to be patriarchs and forefathers, and they did these things that are not allowed later, so how can you say, it's like, no, yeah, but there's a difference. There is a difference. And whether you think it was our sages merely making excuses, trying to find loopholes, then that's when I go, okay, fair enough. You can say that it's loopholes, and you can say that it's just looking for excuses and ways to justify things that would otherwise be transgressing against the Torah, like David and Bathsheba and all that. But there is merit to studying these stories. There is merit to understanding how these people did things that went seemingly against the Torah, and they paid a price for that as well, by the way. And it behooves one who wants to follow Torah to figure out and study why it is that it was like that. And that means going not just to the pshat, not just to the simple text in the Torah, but to the midrash and the remez and the sod and the higher teachings, the deeper teachings. Because when you, and it's not even like an out or a cop out where, oh, you can't make sense of it on a simple level. It's only because it comes from a higher thing. That's where it's like, okay, it could go either way depending on how you approach Torah. Some people are very simple and very, very devoted, not even touching those higher teachings or deeper teachings, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Oh, he's awake? Okay, he's with him. That's fine. It's wa alaikum. I think Yemeni accent. What? Oh, I missed something over there. I'm sorry. Sneezer says, much like say yes. Okay, so you know what? It's been just over an hour, and I think I'll say goodbye and good night. Or good night. See, I'm used to doing this at night. It's afternoon here. Soon it's going to be the Sabbath. More preparations to be done. So, a quick goodbye and a thank you to each and every one of you, those watching now, those watching later. I deeply appreciate your viewership, your subs, your likes, your comments, your chat. Now. I will continue this chat in a different live stream, I hope. And I learned my lesson that if I trim the chat, it will negate the ability to replay the live stream. And I lament the fact that I wasn't able to access the last stream's live chat because there was a lot there that I didn't get to because I had to go, and there was a bunch there that I won't be able to see again unless I figure it out, in which case I will continue that chat as well. Let's have a wonderful Sabbath of rest, relaxation, blessings, good food, games, smiles, Torah, prayer, song, tshuva, repentance, returning, a taste of the coming world, a taste of the world to come. Oy, 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 oy. And peace and love this Shabbat. God bless from Jerusalem.